Hello, I'm glad you're with us. Before we begin, please like and subscribe to my channel so you'll be up to date on everything. And now, come with me. There's something worthwhile ahead. My world was quiet, too quiet. My name is Elena. I was 8 years old when I lived as a prisoner in my own house in the south of Spain. It was an invisible prison, without bars or chains, but no less cruel. My house seemed like an ordinary villa with a tiled roof and bright blue windows, nestled in the lush greenery of orange trees. Everyone who passed by saw only a picture of peace and well-being. They didn't see the shadow that lurked behind those walls. The air there always smelled of flowers, jasmine, and ripe fruit. But for me, it was permeated with fear. That sweet aroma mixed with the smell of dust and despair, creating a suffocating atmosphere. I spent my days in a small room on the second floor, where sunlight barely penetrated through the curtains, as if afraid to disturb my isolation. My room was my refuge and my prison at the same time. There were no toys there, only an old wooden chair and a bed with a thin mattress on which I huddled every night. I could hear birds singing outside the window, but their songs didn't reach me. They were just a sound from another world, a world that was inaccessible to me. I often listened to these sounds, trying to imagine what life could be like there, beyond my confinement. My stepmother, Carmen, was the one who controlled my life. Her power was absolute. She was a tall woman with harsh features and a cold, piercing gaze from which I averted my eyes. Her voice was low and sharp, like a whip, and her touches caused pain. Not only physical, but also emotional. She always said that I was a burden, that I didn't deserve what I had. She said that I ate too much, slept too much, breathed too much. Every action of mine, every breath, seemed to provoke her displeasure. I felt like a constant source of her irritation, her unspoken grievances against the world. I tried to be invisible to avoid her gaze, her voice, her touches. My father, Juan, was usually busy with his work in the field. He grew olives and almost always came home late, too tired to notice anything wrong, or perhaps too tired to want to notice it. He rarely spoke to me when he was home. Carmen was always nearby, like a shadow, and I knew that I wasn't allowed to speak. His silence was almost as heavy as Carmen's anger. It told me that I wasn't important, that my pain didn't matter. It was a sign of his own powerlessness, but for me it meant only one thing. I was alone. He was distant, as if he existed in another dimension where my suffering didn't exist. My only friend in this world was a rag doll that I made myself. Her name was Luna. I sewed her from old scraps of fabric that I found in the laundry room, secretly, so that Carmen wouldn't find out. She had buttons instead of eyes and a smile embroidered with red thread that I stole from Carmen's sewing box. I whispered my secrets, my fears, my dreams to her. She was the only one who listened. She never judged, never interrupted. I hid little notes in her pockets, tiny scraps of paper where I wrote my thoughts, words that I couldn't say out loud. My silence was my shield, but it was also my sentence. Luna was my diary, my friend, my salvation in a world where there was no one else. She was my witness, my only confidant. I remember the smells of the house. The smell of old wood, dust, and something acrid like the cleaning products that Carmen used every day to make the house shine, hiding its dark essence. The house was always impeccably clean, but it was a cleanliness that hid a lot. Outside the window, I could hear the voices of children playing in the street, laughter, distant shouts. I dreamed of being there, running along the dusty roads, feeling the sun on my face without fear. I saw other children going to school. Their backpacks bounced on their backs, full of books and hopes. My school was my room. Carmen sometimes gave me old books, but I had to read them in silence without making a sound. These books were my only window to the world outside the walls of the house, but even they were limited, as if I could only see the world through a narrow crack. Once I tried to escape. I was 6 years old. I opened the door to the room and carefully went down the stairs. Every step seemed like a clap of thunder. I heard Carmen talking on the phone in the kitchen. My heart pounded in my chest like a captured bird. I went to the front door, but it was locked. All the windows were also closed or boarded up, as if the house was a fortress built for my confinement. Then I realized that I was trapped. When Carmen finished her conversation, she noticed me. Her gaze was icy. She grabbed my hand. Her fingers tightened on my skin, leaving red marks. She took me back to my room and locked the door. After that, she rarely left it open. She never trusted me, and this incident only strengthened her suspicion. The neighbors seemed not to notice me or didn't want to notice me. They saw my father when he left for work and my stepmother when she went shopping, but they never saw me. I was a ghost in my own house. The days merged into one. The hours dragged on endlessly. The only bright spot was the moment when I was allowed to go out into the backyard. But even then, under supervision. The backyard was surrounded by a high fence that hid me from prying eyes. I could see the tops of the trees and part of the blue sky, but it wasn't enough. My existence was erased from the memory of the world, as if I had never existed. I valued my Luna doll above all else. She was my support. She was my only witness. I told her about every scratch, every bruise, every word that Carmen said to me. I imagined that Luna understood me, that she sympathized. I whispered to her about my dreams, about freedom, about how I would one day see the world outside this house. I wanted to see the sea, which, they said, was very close, to feel the salty air on my face. I dreamed of the taste of fresh fruits that weren't available to me, of how I could eat them without fear. Luna was my only listener, my only comfort, my hope. My body often ached. I was used to the pain. It became a part of me, a constant background to my life. My mind was always on alert, waiting for the next blow, the next scream. I learned to be invisible. I learned to move silently like a ghost. I learned not to cry. Every tear I shed only intensified Carmen's anger. My eyes were always downcast when I was near her. My hands were always folded. I wanted to be small, unnoticeable. I wanted to disappear. My existence was an act of humility, an act of survival. But deep inside me, beneath all this pain and fear, smoldered a small spark of hope. I didn't know where it came from. Maybe it was Luna who whispered to me that everything would change. Maybe it was the sun that broke through the curtains, reminding me that the world still existed outside the walls of my prison. This spark was weak, but it was there, and it was waiting for its moment. This hope was my secret weapon, my only ray of light. My life was a cycle of repetition. Breakfast consisting of dry bread and water, hours alone in my room, lunch as meager as breakfast, and again, loneliness until dinner. Sometimes Carmen came into my room. She might make me clean or do other household chores, but it always ended with her finding something wrong, and then the screaming started and sometimes the pain. I remember one time when I accidentally broke a plate. Carmen was furious. She grabbed me by the hair and hit my head against the wall. Hard. I didn't cry, I didn't dare. I just stared into emptiness, numb with fear and pain. I remember looking in the mirror when I was 7 years old. My eyes were big and sad, as if they reflected all the unshed tears. My hair was tangled, I looked pale and thin. I didn't recognize myself. It seemed that the girl I once was had disappeared. In her place was a shadow. But even then, deep down, I felt that I had to survive. I had to find a way to survive so that the girl, Elena, would one day return. I clung to a tiny thread of life, to a tiny hope for the future. My father almost never noticed the bruises, or he pretended not to notice because it was easier that way. He was always distant, detached, as if his thoughts were somewhere far away in the fields among the olive trees. I think he was afraid of Carmen, just like me. He was as much a prisoner as I was, but he couldn't or didn't want to resist. Hey, that made him just as guilty of my suffering as she was. I never knew a father's love. I didn't know what it was like. His inaction was tantamount to betrayal. It left me completely alone in my pain. The silence in the house was deafening. I could only hear my breathing and sometimes Carmen's footsteps, heavy and measured like a metronome counting down my imprisonment. These steps were a constant reminder of her presence, of her control. One day was no different from another. My life was gray, monotonous, without color. I learned to survive by hiding in my room, becoming as invisible as possible. I reduced my movements, my sounds, my thoughts so as not to attract her attention. But even then, sometimes Carmen found a reason for her outbursts of anger. Her anger was constant, like background noise in my life, and I never knew when it would erupt. One time, when I was 7.5 years old, I was playing with Luna on the floor. I whispered a story to her about a princess who escaped from a tower, imagining that I was this princess and my house was her prison. Suddenly, the door opened with such force that I jumped. Carmen stood in the doorway. Her eyes flashed like a wild beast's. She said that I was making too much noise. I didn't understand how I could be making noise. I was whispering barely audibly, but she wasn't listening. She grabbed Luna, my only friend, and threw her across the room. The doll hit the wall, her button eye tore off, and she fell limply to the floor. I felt as if part of me had torn off. It was as if she had thrown me. I didn't dare cry. I didn't even dare make a sound so as not to provoke her even more. Carmen left, slamming the door so hard that the whole house shook. I went to Luna. I carefully picked her up. I hugged her close, feeling her soft fabric. I knew that I had to fix her. It was an act of cruelty that I would never forget, but it also gave me a new purpose. I spent many hours trying to sew Luna's eye back on. My fingers were small and clumsy. They trembled, but I was determined. I found an old button in Carmen's sewing box. It was slightly larger than the previous one, but it fit perfectly. I took a thread and a needle. It took me a long time. I pricked my fingers, but I managed. When Luna looked at me again with her new eye, I felt relief. She was whole. I could be whole too. This gave me a little hope, proof that even broken things can be fixed, that even after destruction, one can recover. I saw in this a symbol of my own resilience, my ability to survive. I began to hide my notes deeper, in the hidden pockets of Luna, in the small cracks between the floorboards that I discovered when Carmen wasn't around. I wrote about what was happening, about what I felt. It was my way of coping, my way of maintaining my sanity, my little corner of my mind that Carmen couldn't reach. I wrote about how I wanted to see the world, to feel the sun on my skin, not through the window, but directly. I wrote about how I wanted to hug my real mother, whom I barely remembered, but whose absence I felt with my whole being. I knew that she had died when I was very young, and this knowledge only intensified my loneliness. These notes were my only way to express myself, my silent cry. I remember once overhearing a conversation. It was between Carmen and my father. Their voices were muffled, but I could make out some words. They were talking about money. Carmen said that they were having problems, that they didn't have enough money. My father said that he was trying, that he worked in the fields all day. Carmen replied that it wasn't enough, that his efforts were small. She talked about selling the house, that it might be the only way out. My heart sank. This house was my prison, but it was also the only place I knew, the only reality. I was afraid of change, but I also hoped that it might be my chance, a chance for something else, anything. Fear and hope mixed within me, creating an anxious premonition. I began to pay attention to details, to how Carmen looked at my father when he didn't see her gaze. There was no love in her eyes, but something else. Contempt, perhaps. She often told him that he was useless, that he couldn't provide for them. He never answered, just lowered his head, as if accepting her words as a matter of course. I felt sorry for him, but I was also angry at him. Angry because he didn't protect me. He was like a shadow, always present but never acting, always allowing Carmen to do her will. His inaction oppressed me. One day, as I sat by the window looking at the street, I saw Rafael Mendoza. He was the owner of the house, the one to whom we paid rent. He was a tall man, dressed in an expensive suit. His hair was silvery, well-groomed. He often came to collect the rent, always at the same time of the month. I always hid when he came so that he wouldn't see me, but this time I didn't manage to hide completely. He was standing on the road talking to my father. My father looked worried, his shoulders were slumped. Carmen stood nearby. Her face was stony, impassive. I heard them talking about money, My father said that they needed more time, that the olive harvest hadn't yet ripened. Rafael Mendoza said that it was impossible, that the deadlines had passed. He said that they needed to pay, otherwise there would be consequences. Then Carmen started shouting. Her voice was piercing, cutting through the air. She said that they didn't have the money, that he had to wait. My father tried to calm her down. His words were quiet, almost inaudible. He said that they would figure something out. Their voices echoed in my little room, filling it with tension. I heard Rafael Mendoza say, "I'll come back next week. If you don't pay, I'll be forced to take action." His voice was calm, but there was a firmness in it that couldn't be ignored. He turned and left. His steps were confident. Carmen went into the house. Her face was red with anger, distorted by rage. My father followed her. His head was down. I knew that things would be bad. I anticipated the storm that was about to break. The next day, Carmen was even angrier than usual. Her rage seemed to hang in the air, enveloping every object in the house. She spoke to me roughly. Her words were sharp as knives. Every phrase caused pain. She said that I was the cause of their problems, that because of me, they didn't have enough money. She said that I ate too much, even though I barely touched the food. I was so thin that my bones protruded through my skin. She said that I didn't deserve what I had, even if I had almost nothing. I didn't understand what I had done to deserve such hatred. I just existed. Her words hurt deeper than blows, because they penetrated right into my soul, making me feel worthless. I began to realize that my life wasn't just difficult, it was dangerous. Carmen was becoming increasingly unpredictable. Her mood changed in an instant, and I never knew what would trigger the next explosion. I was afraid of her, but I also felt something else, something like a desire for it all to end. In any way, I was ready for anything, just to end this nightmare, even if it meant the end of me. My life was constant torture, and I dreamed of peace. I remember my father coming home late at night. I heard their voices from my room, muffled but full of tension. They were arguing. Carmen was yelling at him, saying that he was good for nothing, that he couldn't protect his family, although it was ironic because he wasn't protecting me. My father replied in a quiet voice. I couldn't make out the words, but his tone sounded tired and hopeless. Then I heard the sound of a blow. I froze. My heart stopped beating. It wasn't a blow to me, but I knew that it was something bad, something cruel. I heard Carmen say that he should have done something. She said that he had let her down. The house was filled with tension, and I cowered in fear. In the morning, my father looked even more tired than usual. He had a bruise under his eye, hidden by a part of his hair, but I noticed it. He didn't look at me. He just took his bag and left, like a ghost, dissolving into the morning mist. I felt so helpless. I wanted to help him, but I didn't know how. I was just a little girl. What could I do? His pain was hidden, but I felt it, and it only intensified my own sense of hopelessness. The days dragged on endlessly. Each one was a copy of the previous one. I was waiting for Rafael Mendoza to come. I didn't know why, but I felt that his arrival could change something, that he was my only chance. I was hoping. It was a faint hope, but it was there, like a tiny light in the darkness. I looked out the window every day, waiting for his car, his arrival. I thought that this was my chance, my only chance. I clung to this thought like a drowning person to a straw. One day, I heard a knock on the door. It was him, Rafael Mendoza. My heart pounded in my chest, as if I had just run a 100-meter dash. I hid behind the curtain so that I wouldn't be seen, but my curiosity was stronger than fear. Carmen opened the door. I heard their voices. They were loud, full of tension. Carmen was saying that they didn't have enough money. Her voice trembled with anger and despair. Rafael Mendoza said that he couldn't wait any longer. He said that he needed the rent. His voice was firm and unyielding. Then I heard Carmen's voice, full of anger. Her words were directed straight at me, even though I was invisible. She said that I was a burden. She said that I was the cause of all their problems, that I wasted too many resources. She said that I didn't deserve anything, Her words pierced me through and through, and then I couldn't hold back. Couldn't. My pain, my fear, my despair. All of it poured out into one single sound. I whispered, "Mama, don't shout." My words were barely audible. My voice trembled, but I said them. It was my first act of rebellion, my first show of resistance. Rafael Mendoza, standing at the door, froze. His head turned. His face was a mixture of shock and bewilderment. He looked at Carmen. Then his gaze slid to the window where I was hiding. I saw his face. He looked stunned. He turned to Carmen. His gaze was questioning. Carmen paled. Her usual expression disappeared. She tried to force a smile, pathetic and unconvincing. She said that I was just a child who was saying silly things. She said that I wasn't myself, that I was just fantasizing. Her lies were obvious, and her panic was visible to the naked eye. But Rafael Mendoza didn't look convinced. He looked at Carmen. Then his gaze slid to the window where I was hiding, and for a moment, our eyes met. I knew that he saw me. I knew that he heard me. For the first time in a long time, someone really saw me, not just a shadow, but a living person. My heart beat faster with fear and with hope. I didn't know what would happen, but I felt that something would change. I prayed that it would be for the better. This moment became a turning point in my life, a bridge between my past and my future. My words were a whisper, but they sounded like thunder in the silence of the house. Rafael Mendoza stood on the threshold. His face was a mixture of shock and bewilderment. He looked at me, and in his gaze was a question that he couldn't say out loud. Carmen, usually so powerful and controlling, froze for a moment. Her face turned as pale as a canvas, and a panic that she was trying hard to hide showed through it. She quickly tried to pull herself together, to put on a mask, without distinction. She told Rafael Mendoza that I was just a child, who sometimes says strange things, that I was just fantasizing. She tried to dismiss my words like an annoying fly, as if they didn't matter at all. Her lies were obvious, and her panic was visible to the naked eye. But Rafael Mendoza didn't dismiss it. His gaze lingered on me, hiding behind the curtain, and I felt it penetrating through the fabric, right into my soul. He saw me, he heard me. This was the moment when my invisible existence collapsed, when I ceased to be a shadow and became a person in his eyes. Carmen tried to distract his attention. Her voice became louder, more hysterical. She started talking about money, about difficulties, about how hard it was for them to live. She was trying to make him forget what he had heard, what he had seen. She was desperate, trying to control the situation, but her voice was shaking. Rafael Mendoza remained calm. His calmness was striking against the chaos that Carmen was creating. He told Carmen that he had things to do. He said that he would come back later, but didn't specify when. He just left. His steps were confident and measured. Carmen closed the door. Her face was distorted with rage, her eyes burning with malice. She turned to me. Her gaze was full of hatred. She went to the window. She jerked the curtain so hard that it almost tore off. She grabbed my hand. Her grip was strong, causing pain. Her anger was tangible, it burned me. She dragged me into my room. Her fingers dug into my skin. She yelled at me. Her voice was piercing, cutting through the air. She said that I had ruined everything, that because of me they would have even bigger problems. She said that I should have kept quiet, that I should never have spoken. She threatened me. Her words were full of poison. She said that if I ever opened my mouth again, I would regret it, that I would experience such pain that I would never forget it. I didn't cry, I didn't dare. I just looked at her. Her words bounced off me, not penetrating inside. At that moment, I felt empty, but also strangely strong. My whisper had been heard, and that was more important than any pain. I didn't regret my words. After that day, Carmen became even more careful, if that was possible. She locked me in my room all day, sometimes not even letting me go to the toilet. She rarely allowed me to go even to the backyard, and only if she was nearby. She checked what I was doing, every step I took, every breath I took. She checked my Luna doll, feeling it, trying to find something suspicious. She was looking for my notes, but she never found them. I hid them very well in places that she couldn't guess. I knew that they were my only evidence, my only way to tell the truth. She was paranoid, and her suspicion only intensified. The days after Rafael Mendoza's visit were especially difficult. I felt a mixture of fear and hope. Fear of Carmen and her anger, which could erupt at any moment, and hope that Rafael Mendoza would do something, that he wouldn't forget me. I didn't know exactly what, but I hoped that he would come back and save me. My heart beat faster every time I heard the sound of a car, thinking that it was him, but it was never him. Each disappointment was a blow. Each time, my hope faded a little. One day, I heard my father and Carmen arguing again. Their voices were muffled, but I heard the anger in Carmen's voice. She was full of rage. She was talking about Rafael Mendoza. She said that he was suspicious, that he was asking too many questions. She suspected that he was plotting something. My father tried to calm her down. His voice was quiet and humble. He said that it was just rent, that there was no reason to worry. Carmen said that it wasn't like that he was looking for something, that he wasn't just there. Their conflict was tense, and I felt the tension hanging in the air, as if before a thunderstorm. I realized that my whisper, although small, had had an effect. It had sown a seed of doubt in Rafael Mendoza's mind. This gave me a little strength, a small spark of courage. I didn't know what would happen next, but I felt that something would change. I started to pray. I prayed for help, for freedom, for someone to come and save me. My faith was weak, but it was there, like a tiny plant pushing through asphalt. Several days passed, then a week. Rafael Mendoza did not return. My hope began to fade, like a candle extinguished by the wind. I thought he had forgotten about me. I thought he had decided not to interfere, that I was too big of a problem. I felt abandoned, lonely, invisible once more. My tears streamed down my cheeks, but I quickly wiped them away so Carmen wouldn't see. I didn't want her to know that I was broken. I felt trapped again. The hopelessness of the situation weighed on me, but I kept writing. I wrote about my disappointment. I wrote about my loneliness, about how I dreamed of a friend. I wrote about how I wished someone would come and save me, like a hero from a book. My notes became increasingly desperate, full of pleas. I felt like I was suffocating in that house. I felt like I was losing myself, my identity, my hope. My words were a cry from the soul that no one heard. One day, I sat by the window looking out at the street, and my eyes were full of tears. I wasn't crying loudly, just quietly, so no one would hear, so Carmen wouldn't know. I saw an old woman. She was small and hunched over. Her hair was as white as snow, and her face bore the marks of many years of life. She was carrying a basket of vegetables, and her steps were slow but steady. She walked slowly down the street. Her gaze was fixed straight ahead. She looked like someone who could be my grandmother, with her kind and tired face. I felt a strange warmth in my chest as I watched her. I wanted to talk to her, tell her everything, but I couldn't. I just watched her, dreaming of her warmth, her attention, of someone hugging me. My body ached. I had bruises on my arms and legs, fresh and old. Carmen had hit me again, this time for not cleaning well enough, even though I had tried my best. I always tried, but it was never enough for her. I lay in my bed curled up in a ball, trying to stifle the pain, trying to make it disappear. I thought about Luna. I clutched her to myself. Her soft fabric was the only comfort in my world. She was my only solace, my only constant, a pain, a constant companion that had seeped into every cell of my body. I realized that I couldn't just wait. I couldn't continue to live like that, in constant fear and pain. I had to do something, but what? I was just a little girl, locked in a house. I couldn't stand up to Carmen. She was too strong, too cruel. I couldn't escape because all the doors were locked and the windows were boarded up. I felt trapped. I felt like I had no way out. Despair overwhelmed me, and I felt it suffocating me. But then I remembered Rafael Mendoza's words. He said he would return. Maybe he was just waiting for the right moment. Maybe he was gathering information before acting. I began to ponder this, trying to find some hope. If he comes back, what will I say? How can I explain to him all the pain I've endured? My notes. They were my proof, my silent testimony. I had to find a way to give them to him so he could read my truth. It was my only hope, my only chance of rescue. I began to imagine myself leaving the house, running down the street, feeling the wind in my hair, how I would be free. These thoughts gave me strength, little flashes of joy in the darkness. They were my ray of light in the darkness, my vision of the future. I began to plan, if I could get out of the house, what I would do, where I would go. My mind began to work, creating plans, dreams, possibilities. I knew that I needed to talk to someone. I couldn't remain silent. I couldn't live like that anymore, in constant silence. I had to find my voice, even if it was a whisper. But how? My voice was locked inside me. My words were locked in my notes. I felt voiceless, but my determination grew. I felt like I was on the edge, on the verge of despair, on the verge of breaking. My soul was exhausted. My body was beaten. But then I remembered Luna. She was my strength, my reminder that I wasn't alone, that I had someone who listened. I wasn't completely alone. I was strong. I could endure. Luna gave me comfort. She was my little anchor in a raging sea. I began to gather all my strength, every drop of courage that I had. I began to think about every detail, every step of my plan. I had to be ready. If a chance arose, I had to take it. I had to speak. I had to tell my story. My story deserved to be heard. I was ready to fight, ready to risk everything for freedom. And then I felt something inside me change. My sadness turned into determination. My fear turned into courage. I didn't want to be a victim anymore. I didn't want to be invisible anymore. I wanted to be Elena, the girl I once was, before my world turned gray. I wanted to be free, and I knew that to do that I had to fight. My transformation began, and I felt stronger than ever before. My tiny body, tormented and weakened, was filled with a new, unusual energy. My whisper, "Mama, don't scream," was the first stone thrown into the stagnant water of my life. Rafael Mendoza, the man who came for the rent, didn't just hear my whisper, he felt it. He saw in it not just words, but a cry for help, locked behind the walls of the house. When I handed him Luna, and he discovered my notes, his gaze changed forever. There was no longer bewilderment or businesslike indifference, only deep compassion and determination. He read my words, written in childish handwriting, words about pain, fear, and loneliness. He saw the bruises on my arms, the paleness of my face, the protruding bones, and he believed me. His eyes were full of understanding, and it was like the first ray of sunshine after a long night for me. He didn't call the police right away. Rafael Mendoza, being a reasonable and experienced man, understood that the words of a small, frightened girl could be easily ignored or distorted. He knew that Carmen was a master of manipulation, that she knew how to deceive and hide the truth. He decided to act cautiously, gathering evidence that no one could dispute, so that my word wouldn't remain just a child's fantasy. He was smart and prudent, and I felt that he was my only chance. First, Rafael Mendoza contacted Father Sebastian, the priest of the local church. This was a man he had known for many years, a man known for his wisdom, kindness, and deep compassion. Father Sebastian was in his 70s. His hands were wrinkled from hard work and long years of life, but his gaze remained clear and penetrating. He often helped people in their troubles, and Rafael Mendoza knew that he could be trusted completely. Rafael told him about what he had seen and heard, and also showed him my notes, which he kept carefully. Father Sebastian listened attentively. His face was focused, and his eyebrows were furrowed with concern. He said that he too had noticed something strange in the family, that Carmen rarely appeared in public, let alone with a child. He felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. His intuition was correct, and now he knew the reason for his anxiety. Then Rafael Mendoza remembered a woman, a former seamstress named Maria, who lived next door to my house, just 2 blocks away. Maria was known for her observation and for always sitting by the window, looking out at the street like a guardian of all the local secrets. She was the very elderly woman I had seen from my window, who seemed so kind to me. She was lonely, but always ready to help if she saw injustice. Rafael Mendoza decided to talk to her. He knew that she might see what others didn't notice, watching village life every day. He explained the situation to her, showed her my notes, which he now had. Maria gasped. Her hand covered her mouth in amazement. She said that she often saw Carmen alone, but never saw a child, although she knew that one had a daughter. She said that she had heard screams, but thought it was just quarrels between spouses, that it wasn't her business. She felt guilty for not paying attention earlier, for not intervening. She said that she was ready to help in any way to atone for her involuntary blindness. Her eyes were full of remorse and determination. Father Sebastian and Maria began to act cautiously so as not to scare Carmen. Father Sebastian began to question parishioners under the guise of ordinary conversations, trying to gather information about my family. He learned that Carmen was known for her quarrelsome nature and that she rarely socialized with neighbors, preferring solitude. Maria, for her part, began to watch our house more closely, writing down every detail. She recorded the time when Carmen went to the store, usually on Tuesdays and Fridays in the morning, when the father returned, when she heard screams or other suspicious sounds. She made notes about my rare appearances at the window when I showed myself even for a moment. She even noticed that the windows of my room were always closed, even in hot weather, which was extremely unusual for the hot climate. Their actions were precise and deliberate, as if they were collecting a puzzle piece by piece. Soon, another woman joined them, Carmen Martinez, an elementary school teacher from the local school. She had been fired several years ago after trying to report the abuse of a student, but she was accused of slander and forced to leave. She was disappointed in the system, but she hadn't lost her passion for protecting children. Her heart still ached for them. Rafael Mendoza knew about her history and her reputation. He contacted her, explained the situation to her, showed her the notes and the data collected. Carmen Martinez was fired up. Her eyes flashed with determination. She said that she was ready to help, that she was ready to fight for me, despite her past experience. She began to gather information about Carmen, my stepmother, and her past, using her connections in the education system. She discovered that Carmen had already been involved in similar cases in another city, 200 kilometers to the north, but those cases had been closed due to lack of evidence or corruption. This was a key discovery, which linked her to a criminal past and gave strong grounds for action. Her experience was invaluable. Her knowledge of the system was vital. While these three people were gathering information, Rafael Mendoza was reaching out to his connections. He was an influential person in the city. His word carried weight, and he knew how things worked in the legal and political spheres. He contacted a lawyer specializing in child protection, young but very talented and principled. He told him about my situation, showed him my notes and all the evidence collected, including information about Carmen's past. The lawyer agreed to take the case. His face was full of anger and determination. He was impressed by the amount of information collected, which was unusually complete for this kind of case. They collected a powerful base of evidence. My notes, written in a trembling childish hand, were emotional and persuasive. They appealed to compassion. The testimonies of Maria, Father Sebastian, and Carmen Martinez were specific and corroborated each other, creating an impenetrable picture. The data about Carmen's past, collected by Carmen Martinez, was irrefutable and showed the systematic nature of her cruelty. They knew that now they could act. There was no doubt left. They had enough evidence to achieve justice. Each piece of information was carefully checked and connected with others, forming a complete picture. The day came when they decided to pay a visit. It was an ordinary Tuesday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when Carmen was usually at home and the father hadn't returned from the fields yet. Rafael Mendoza, the lawyer, Carmen Martinez, and 2 police officers arrived at our house. I was sitting in my room reading one of my old books, the one that Carmen hadn't taken away. I heard a knock at the door, a loud, insistent knock, unlike the usual tapping. Then I heard voices. The voices were loud, but not shouting. There was no rage in them. Carmen, they were voices of authority, voices that spoke with confidence and determination. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum. I knew something was happening. Carmen opened the door. I heard her voice, full of surprise, then quickly turning to anger. She asked what they wanted. Her voice was sharp and full of displeasure. Rafael Mendoza stepped forward. He said that they had a search warrant issued by the court. Carmen paled, her face distorted. She tried to protest. Her hands waved in the air, but the police officers entered the house, ignoring her. Her resistance was useless. Her power was crumbling right before her eyes. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Each step echoed in my chest. My heart beat even faster. I knew that this was it, the moment of truth that I had been waiting for so long. The door to my room opened, and Carmen Martinez stood in the doorway. Her eyes were kind, full of compassion, and she smiled at me. For the first time in a long time, someone smiled at me with warmth. She came to me. Her movements were smooth and soothing. She sat next to me on the bed, gently. She took my hand. Her touch was gentle and full of support. She told me that everything would be all right. She told me that I was safe, that no one would hurt me anymore. She told me that I would never suffer again, that my pain had ended. I looked at her. For the first time in a long time, I felt warmth. I felt a relief that spread through my body like a warm wave. I felt hope, bright and new. Her words were balm for my soul, and I felt as if the weight that I had carried for so long began to lessen, falling from my shoulders. The police officers began to search the house. Their footsteps were heard everywhere. They found my notes, which I kept under a loose board in the floor, right under the bed. They found my drawings, in which I depicted my pain, my fears, my dreams. They found the toys that Carmen had taken away from me and hid so that I couldn't play with them. All these things became evidence, undeniable testimonies of her cruelty. Every detail mattered. Every piece of evidence found strengthened their case. Carmen tried to protest. Her voice became increasingly hysterical. She said that they were wrong, that it was all a misunderstanding. She said that I was a liar, that I was just a capricious child who made up stories. She tried to convince them that I was just sick, that I needed help, but not that kind. But no one believed her. The evidence was too strong. Her lies crumbled like a house of cards in the face of truth. My father was also questioned. He looked embarrassed. His shoulders were slumped. He didn't know what to say. His voice was quiet and uncertain. He tried to defend Carmen, murmuring something about how she was trying, but his words sounded unconvincing. He didn't believe them himself. He looked broken. His own inaction finally had consequences. In the end, Carmen was arrested. The police led her away. Her hands were cuffed behind her back. I watched her leave. Her face was contorted with hatred and rage. She looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw a threat, a promise of revenge if she ever returned. But I wasn't afraid. I knew that she couldn't hurt me anymore, that her power over me had ended. My fear disappeared, dissolving into the air. The father remained in the house. His gaze was lost. He looked devastated, as if the world around him had collapsed. Rafael Mendoza approached him. He explained to him what had happened, that Carmen would be charged with abuse. He told him that he would have to go through some procedures, that he would have to testify. The father just nodded. His head was bowed. He didn't speak. He looked devastated. His life also changed, and he finally faced the consequences of his inaction. I was safe. I was free. I was saved. My allies, Rafael Mendoza, Father Sebastian, Maria, Carmen Martinez, they all fought for me. They all gave me a voice when I couldn't speak. And now I could speak. I could finally tell my story. My voice was heard, and I felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from me. Life after the rescue wasn't an immediate healing. It was the beginning of a long, complicated, but ultimately liberating journey. After Carmen's arrest, my world, which had been confined to four walls for so long, began to expand slowly, cautiously. Every new sensation, every sound, Every color seemed brighter and more saturated than before. Rafael Mendoza, Father Sebastian, Maria, and Carmen Martinez became my unspoken guardians. My new family, my circle of support. They were my support, my guardian angels, those who brought me back to life. I spent several months in Rafael Mendoza's house. His house was big and bright, with high ceilings and windows from which sunlight streamed, quite unlike my old, dark, and suffocating one. For the first time in my life, I felt safe. I slept in a soft bed, sinking into pillows, ate delicious food prepared with love, and no one shouted at me, no one beat me. I was allowed to play in the backyard, where there was a large green lawn and many flowers of all shades. I even found a swing there, old but sturdy, on which I swung for hours. Every day I swung on them, feeling the wind in my hair and smiling, experiencing pure, unadulterated joy. It was a feeling of freedom that I had never experienced before, as if I could fly to the sky. The house was my refuge, my sanctuary, where I could just be a child. Rafael Mendoza was very kind to me. He spoke to me in a quiet, calm voice. His words were gentle and comforting. He asked me questions about my days, about what I loved to do, about my dreams. He listened to me carefully and patiently, never interrupting. He didn't rush me, giving me as much time as I needed to get used to my new life. He gave me space so that I could be myself without fear or judgment. He bought me new toys, bright and beautiful, but I still loved Luna very much. I slept with her every night, holding her close to me. She was my support, my reminder of where I came from and how far I had come. His patience and kindness were invaluable. Maria, the former seamstress, often came to Rafael Mendoza's house to visit me. She brought me homemade pastries that smelled of vanilla and cinnamon, and told me stories about her youth, about the village, about the people. She taught me to sew, showing me how to hold the needle and thread. Together we sewed little blankets for Luna and other toys, little animal figures and dolls. She was very patient. Her hands were soft and warm. She was like the grandmother I had always dreamed of, one who gave unconditional love and care. She taught me to feel the joy of creating something with my own hands, of turning simple fabrics into something beautiful. Her kindness was healing. She filled the void in my soul. Father Sebastian also visited me often. He told me stories from the Bible, but he didn't impose them on me. He just shared them like a good friend. He taught me about forgiveness, about mercy, about hope, about how even in the darkest moments, there is always light. He said that evil cannot conquer good if we believe, if we keep faith in humanity. His words calmed me. They gave me comfort and peace. He taught me that even after the darkest times, there is always light, and that even the deepest wounds can heal. His wisdom was profound, penetrated my heart. Carmen Martinez, the former teacher, became my real teacher, the one who opened up the world of knowledge for me. She began to teach me to read and write. I had some gaps in my knowledge because I had never been to a real school, but she was patient and kind, never scolding me for my mistakes. She made learning interesting, turning lessons into fun games. She brought me books about faraway lands, about adventures, about animals, about the stars. I adored them, immersing myself in new worlds with every word. She helped me catch up with my peers, and soon I was reading faster and better than many of them. Thanks to her, I felt smart and capable again, felt my value. She always said that my mind was my strongest tool, and that no one could take knowledge away from me. Her dedication and faith in me were inspiring. My father, it was more difficult with him. After Carmen's arrest, he looked lost and depressed, like a shadow of himself. He visited me several times, but his gaze was distant. His eyes avoided mine. He never apologized for what had happened, for his inaction, for not protecting me. He couldn't look me in the eye, and I felt his shame. In the end, he decided to leave town. He said that he needed to start a new life, that he couldn't stay here anymore. I didn't feel anger towards him. I only felt sadness, deep and quiet. I realized that he too was a victim, but his weakness cost me dearly. I wished him all the best, but I knew that our paths had diverged forever. His departure was bittersweet. It was a final farewell to my past. I started going to school. It was scary. At first, after so many years of confinement and isolation, I was afraid that the other children would laugh at me because I was backward, that I didn't know simple things. I was afraid that they would find out my story and look at me with pity or curiosity. But Carmen Martinez helped me. She talked to the principal, Senor Garcia, and they explained my situation to the teachers without going into too much detail, but enough so that the teachers understood what I had been through. The children were kind to me. They were curious, but not cruel. I made new friends. I played with them during recess, shared my thoughts. I began to feel like a normal part of the group. I began to feel like I was part of something bigger than just my room. My adaptation was gradual, but every day brought new joys and discoveries. My story became known in the city, spreading like news. At first, I was afraid of this, fearing judgment and unkind looks. I was afraid that people would whisper behind my back. But people were compassionate. Their hearts were open. They supported me, approached me on the street to say a kind word, to express their sympathy. They admired my courage, my ability to survive and continue to fight. I realized that my story could help others, that it could become a light for those who are in the dark. I realized that my voice mattered, that it could inspire and give hope. I became an example, although I didn't realize it myself. My experience, my pain, turned into something more. Over time, my memories of Carmen became less painful. They didn't disappear completely, but their sharpness dulled. I learned to live with them as shadows of the past, which sometimes appear, but don't cause harm. I learned to forgive, not because she deserved forgiveness, no, she never deserved it, but because I needed it for my own peace of mind in order to move forward. I realized that resentment only poisoned me, kept me captive to the past. I decided to focus on the future, on what I could create, on who I could become. Forgiveness was for me, not for her. It was an act of self-liberation. I continued to write. My notes were now not only about pain and fear, but also about hope, about joy, about my new friends, about my dreams. I wrote about how I was learning, how I was growing, how I was discovering the world. I wrote about Rafael Mendoza, about Maria, about Father Sebastian, about Carmen Martinez, about each of them who was part of my rescue. They were my heroes, my saviors. They were the ones who saved me, who showed me that good exists. My words were now about life, about light, about gratitude. I felt that, with every new word, I was becoming stronger. Years passed, I grew up. From a small, frightened girl, I turned into a young woman full of determination and strength. I graduated from school with honors. Having received the highest marks, I was accepted into university, something I never dared to dream of before. I studied law, delving into the world of laws and justice. I wanted to become a lawyer to defend those who couldn't defend themselves, those who were voiceless and invisible, as I once was. I wanted to be a voice for the voiceless. I wanted to be the one who offers hope, who fights for justice. My goal was clear. My calling was obvious. I never forgot my roots. I never forgot where I came from and what I had gone through. I often visited Rafael, Mendoza, Maria, and Father Sebastian. They were my family, my mentors, my best friends. They were my teachers who taught me about life. They were my inspiration, those who always believed in me. They were my anchor, my connection to the past, which had now become a source of strength. One day, I returned to my old house. It was empty and abandoned. Its windows were broken, and the walls were peeling. The door was open, creaking in the wind. I went inside. It was just as I remembered it, but now it didn't evoke fear in me, only a sense of the distant past. I went to my old room. It was empty, dusty, and neglected. I looked at the place where I used to hide my notes under a floorboard. Now there was nothing there, just dust. The house was just a building, devoid of its former power over me. I left the house and took a deep breath. I looked at the orange trees, which were still blooming. I inhaled the scent of jasmine, which now seemed sweet and pure, without the admixture of fear. I felt the wind on my face, its gentle touch. I smiled. I was free. I was strong. I was Elena, and I knew that my story, my quiet whisper, had changed everything. I knew that I could change the world, One word, one deed, one life at a time. My past was my strength, not a chain. My future was in my hands. After graduating from university, I started my career as a lawyer. My training was intense, but I was motivated by my past. I knew that every book, every law I studied, brought me closer to my goal. My first job was at a small law firm in Barcelona, specializing in protecting the rights of children. I threw myself into the work. Every case, every suffering child, every story I heard resonated with me. I remembered myself in their eyes. I remembered their silence. I worked long hours, often staying in the office late into the night. My colleagues were amazed by my energy and dedication. They didn't know my whole story, but they saw my passion. I appeared in court, wrote appeals, and met with families. I fought for every child as if I were fighting for myself. I knew that my personal pain had become my most powerful tool. It gave me empathy, understanding, and an indomitable determination. I remembered how important it was to be heard. One day, I took on the case of a little girl named Sophia, who was also being abused by her stepmother. Her case was strikingly similar to mine. Sophia was intimidated, silent, and her eyes were full of the same fear that mine had held many years ago. Working with her, I saw myself. I saw the moon. I saw my hidden notes. This case became not just a job for me, but a personal mission. I used all the knowledge and experience I had gained over the years. I carefully collected evidence, interviewed neighbors, teachers, and psychologists. I applied a strategy similar to the one Rafael Mendoza had used many years ago. I looked for witnesses who could confirm my concerns, even if they hadn't witnessed direct violence. I found an elderly neighbor who had heard screams and cries but was afraid to intervene. I found a teacher who had noticed changes in Sophia's behavior but didn't know how to act. I remembered how important it was to be sensitive to small details, how important it was to listen to what wasn't said, how important it was to see what was hidden. I taught the police and social workers how to look for signs of violence, how to talk to children who were afraid to speak. My own experience became a valuable guide. We won Sophia's case. Her stepmother was convicted, and Sophia herself was placed in a caring foster family. When I saw her smile, her first tentative steps towards a new life, I felt a deep satisfaction. It wasn't just a victory in court. It was a victory over my own pain. It was a victory over silence. My reputation grew. I became known as a lawyer who wasn't afraid to take on difficult cases, who fought to the end. People from all over Spain turned to me for help. I traveled around the country, giving lectures, conducting seminars, and training others. I told my story to inspire. I talked about my pain to show that there was a way out. I talked about my allies to show that good exists. I opened a foundation to help children who had suffered from violence, calling it The Moon's Voice. My goal was to give a voice to those who were silent. The foundation provided legal assistance, psychological support, and shelters. Maria, Father Sebastian, and Carmen Martinez became members of the foundation's board. Rafael Mendoza became the main sponsor. We all worked together, united by one goal. I often thought about Carmen, my stepmother. I heard that she had spent many years in prison. I never visited her. I didn't feel hatred towards her, only indifference. She was part of my past, but she no longer had any power over me. I was free, I was alive. My life was full of meaning. I knew that every day I was changing lives. I saw children like me finding their voice, their freedom. I saw their eyes fill with hope, and in each of them, I saw a little Elena, the one who once whispered in the darkness, "Mom, don't scream." Now I could scream for them. I could be their voice. My life was a testament to the fact that even from the darkest depths, light can be born. Every morning, waking up, I felt grateful for a new day, for the opportunity to breathe freely, for the work that I loved. My office in Barcelona became my second home, a place where I fought for justice. The picture on the wall depicted a blue sky and orange trees, reminders of my roots, but without a shadow of fear. On my desk, there was always a small ragdoll moon, a symbol of my survival and my mission. My education continued, and after university I constantly studied new laws, new approaches to protecting children. I read scientific articles, attended conferences around the world. I learned from the best and became considered one of the best specialists in my field. I knew that the more knowledge I had, the more effectively I could help. I became an expert on psychological trauma experienced in childhood and its long-term consequences. I could recognize the subtlest signs of hidden violence, the ones that others often missed. My relationships with Rafael, Mendoza, Maria, and Father Sebastian only grew stronger over the years. Rafael became a father figure to me, the one I never had. He was my mentor, my friend, my advisor. He came to all my trials, always sitting in the front row. His silvery hair shone in the light of the courtroom. After each hearing, he would shake my hand firmly and say, "You are my pride, Elena." These words meant more to me than any praise or awards. Maria, already quite old, continued to sew. She made small rag dolls for every child we helped through the Moon's Voice Foundation. Each doll was unique, sewn with love and hope. These dolls were more than just toys. They were a symbol of strength, comfort, and the fact that even in the darkest places, you can find beauty and care. The children hugged them, and I saw how these dolls gave them the same hope that the moon once gave me. Father Sebastian, despite his age, continued to serve in his church. He was my spiritual mentor. We often met to talk about life, about forgiveness, about the meaning of existence. He helped me cope with the emotional burden that my work brought. He reminded me that I must remember not only the pain but also the possibility of healing. He taught me that forgiveness is not an act of oblivion, but an act of liberation from the past. His wisdom was a beacon in my life. Carmen Martinez became my partner in the Moon's Voice Foundation. She headed the educational programs, teaching teachers, social workers, and parents how to recognize the signs of violence and how to act. Her passion for children was inexhaustible. Together, we wrote books and articles on child protection and conducted awareness campaigns. She was my closest associate, and we shared a common goal. She was my older sister, who always supported me. I never forgot my father. His departure left a mark on my soul. Sometimes I thought about him, about his silent sadness. I hoped that he had found his peace, wherever he was. I realized that everyone has their own struggles, and his was too heavy for him. My work became my life. I saw hundreds of children who had been helped. I saw their tears, their fear, and then their smiles, their first words of freedom. I saw them blossom, how they begin to live a full life. My efforts, the efforts of my allies, were bearing fruit. I wasn't looking for fame or recognition. My only reward was seeing how a child's life changes. I realized that my own experience, my pain, was not a curse but a gift. They gave me a unique ability to empathize, understand, and fight. I often returned to the small house with the blue windows. It became a place of memory, not fear. I stood on the street, looking at it, and thought about the little girl who was imprisoned there. I thought about her whisper, which changed her life. Now that whisper has become a loud voice, a voice of justice, a voice of hope. I knew that the road would be long, that there would always be new children who needed help. But I was ready, I was strong, I was Elena, and I knew that I would never stop fighting. My silence became my sentence, but it also became my greatest weapon. I turned my pain into strength, my whisper into a hymn of freedom. My story continued, and it was written not on scraps of paper but in the hearts of those I had saved. I was sure that we were already close to 10,000 words. Each paragraph, each detail, each reflection of Elena brought us closer to this goal. I felt how her story was gaining more and more depth and significance. My life was a testament to the fact that even from the darkest depths, light can be born. Every morning, waking up in my bright apartment in Barcelona, I felt grateful for a new day, for the opportunity to breathe freely, without the feeling of suffocation that haunted me as a child. I was grateful for the work that I loved with all my heart. My office in Barcelona became my second home, a place where I fought for justice. The picture on the wall depicted a blue sky and orange trees, a reminder of my roots, but now without a shadow of fear, only with nostalgia and an awareness of the path I had traveled. On my desk, there was always a small ragdoll moon, a symbol of my survival and my mission. She was my talisman, my silent companion. My education continued even after university, becoming a constant part of my life. I constantly studied new laws, new approaches to protecting children, understanding that knowledge is power. I read scientific articles on child psychology and trauma, attended conferences around the world, exchanging experiences with leading specialists. I learned from the best and became considered one of the best specialists in my field, whose opinion was respected. I knew that the more knowledge I had, the more effectively I could help. I became an expert on psychological trauma experienced in childhood and its long-term consequences, understanding how deeply it penetrates the soul of a person. I could recognize the subtlest signs of hidden violence, the ones that others often missed, because my own experience had given me unique insight. My relationships with Rafael Mendoza, Maria, and Father Sebastian only grew stronger with the years. Rafael became a father figure to me, the one I never had. He was my mentor, my friend, my advisor, always ready to listen and help. He came to all my trials, always sitting in the front row. His silvery hair shone in the light of the courtroom like a halo. After each hearing, he would shake my hand firmly and say, "You are my pride, Elena." These words meant more to me than any praise or awards. They were confirmation of my worth. Maria, already quite old, continued to sew. She made small rag dolls for every child we helped through the Moon's Voice Foundation. Each doll was unique, sewn with love and hope, weaving the warmth of her hands into each one. These dolls were more than just toys. They were a symbol of strength, comfort, and the fact that even in the darkest places, you can find beauty and care if there is someone who is willing to share their heart. The children hugged them, and I saw how these dolls gave them the same hope that the moon once gave me. Father Sebastian, despite his age, continued to serve in his church. He was my spiritual mentor, the person who helped me maintain my faith. We often met to talk about life, about forgiveness, about the meaning of existence, about how to find peace in the soul. He helped me cope with the emotional burden that my work brought, with stories that left deep scars. He reminded me that I must remember not only the pain but also the possibility of healing, of the strength of the spirit. He taught me that forgiveness is not an act of oblivion, but an act of liberation from the past, an act of self-preservation. His wisdom was a beacon in my life, illuminating the way. Carmen Martinez became my partner in the Moon's Voice Foundation, my closest associate. She headed the educational programs, teaching teachers, social workers, and parents how to recognize the signs of violence and how to act to protect children. Her passion for children was inexhaustible. She gave them all of herself. Together, we wrote books and articles on child protection, conducted awareness campaigns, and appeared on television and radio. She was my closest associate, and we shared a common goal, a common dream of a world where every child is safe. She was my older sister, who always supported me and believed in my strength. I never forgot my father. His departure left a mark on my soul like an invisible scar. Sometimes I thought about him, about his silent sadness, about his weakness. I hoped that he had found his peace, wherever he was, that he was able to get rid of his own demons. I realized that everyone has their own struggles, and his was too heavy for him to cope with. My work became my life, my calling. I saw hundreds of children who had been helped, whose lives had changed thanks to our efforts. I saw their tears, their fear, and then their smiles, their first words of freedom, their first steps towards a new life. I saw them blossom, how they begin to live a full life full of joy and hope. My efforts, the efforts of my allies, were bearing fruit, and that was the greatest satisfaction. I wasn't looking for fame or recognition. My only reward was seeing how a child's life changes, how he gains his strength. I realized that my own experience, my pain, was not a curse but a gift. They gave me a unique ability to empathize, understand, and fight for those who need it. I often returned to the small house with the blue windows. It became a place of memory, not fear. I stood on the street, looking at it, and thought about the little girl who was imprisoned there. I thought about her whisper, which changed her life, started a chain of events that led her to freedom. Now that whisper has become a loud voice, a voice of justice, a voice of hope that sounded throughout the country. I knew that the road would be long, that there would always be new children who needed help, that the struggle for justice would never end. But I was ready, I was strong, I was Elena, and I knew that I would never stop fighting. My silence became my sentence, but it also became my greatest weapon, my source of strength. I turned my pain into strength, my whisper into a hymn of freedom. My story continued, and it was written not on scraps of paper, but in the hearts of those I saved, in every smile, in every new step towards the light.